Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, July 25th, 2019. I'm Keith Tebow. A task force is moving ahead to provide a plan by which to change Fall River's form of government. The City Council may soon move forward on a plan to ban single-use plastic bags, and the Teddy Bear Picnic returns to the library next week. But first, let's check in with the headline issues of the week. We bring in the digital news editor at the Herald News, Phil Devitt. Phil, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Keith. I'm doing well. How are you today?
I am well as well. We are in the throes of an election season, and a lot of times that means looking at who contributes to whose campaign. And you have a story that was posted online today in the Herald about a local healthcare company that's actually spending a good amount of money on the mayoral campaign. Fill us in.
Yeah, Keith, like you, we're getting heavy into campaign mode here, and part of that coverage means looking at donations and donors and where they're coming from. So we did a check, as we will throughout the campaign season, with the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, and we learned that of the 23 donors to Mayor Jaisal Correa's campaign the first couple of weeks in July, 18 of them were from primary care employees, either doctors or administrators. So we're talking $16,000 of the $17,000 total that Correa amassed between July 1st and the 15th. And primary care has a history of being generous to this mayor. Since 2016, it has donated $50,600, according to records, again, from the Office of Campaign and Political Finance.
Well, just to be fair as well, Primacare also donated some $5,000 to Paul Coogan's campaign, correct?
That is absolutely correct. That was in June. So the most recent report that we have from the Coogan campaign is that, yes, $5,000 were donated by Primacare workers to his campaign. Of course, this is all legal, and all of the donations are within the $1,000 limit set on donations. You'll find, some donations for $1,000, other donations for about $500. We spoke with Primacare this week. We wanted to touch base with them. They said that, all of these doctor donations to candidates are completely voluntary. And they said it was getting kind of messy whenever we entered a campaign season, with candidates and their supporters sort of constantly approaching doctors for donations. So they're trying to approach these donations more strategically, they said.
And actually, you mentioned this before. Since December of 2016, the mayor has received over $50,000 in donations that are related to doctors and administrators working at Primacare. Also, just as a reference in the report, you mentioned the amount that is in each of the mayoral candidates' war chests. The mayor, as you said, had quite a bit of donations from Primacare and others, but during the last reported quarter, I believe, the mayor has only $21,000 in his campaign chest, while Paul Coogan has a little over $26,000, and Erica Scott Pacheco, also running for mayor, did receive some campaign donations in the last quarter, but she only has $845 in her campaign war chest. So this is something we continue to follow right along, and actually dovetails, Phil, into our next story concerning the. We talked about this last week briefly.
Yeah.
A mention a week ago Monday at the City Council meeting. City Councilor Sean Kadim sort of accused the mayor of getting kickbacks from the marijuana industry as the council was discussing the possibility of limiting the number of licenses here in Fall River. Well, this week the mayor and his attorney responded to Councilor Kadim.
That's correct. You might remember last week we asked the mayor for his response to City Councilor Sean Kadim's comments during a public meeting. And the mayor's only response to us at the time was that he was going to talk to his attorney about this. And it didn't take long for a response to come forward. Earlier this week, Kevin Reddington, the mayor's attorney, writing to Sean Kadim with some pretty straightforward language, saying that Kadim was either being malicious or had a complete to use his words, reckless regard for the truth when he said what he said at that meeting. Reddington basically accusing Kadim of trying to get attention for his own political purposes, calling his comments childish and incendiary in a very brief but direct letter, and ending that letter with a possible threat of legal action if these statements were to continue. Now, Kadim didn't take long to respond to that letter in his own way. Reddington suggested, to Kadim that if he has evidence, if he has accusations, well, why don't you take them to the U.S. attorney? And that's what Kadim did in a letter this week, basically saying he believes in holding public officials accountable for their actions, and that he would be happy, to use his words, to provide any assistance he can to bring an end to public corruption. So Kadim is really doubling down on what he said. Not afraid really to continue along this with these accusations that Reddington said he'd like to see come to an end.
Right, and it has been reported by the Herald that in terms of campaign contributions, again to tie it into campaign funding, that the mayor has received over $55,000 in campaign contributions or contributions to his legal fund from the marijuana industry. Some of those same individuals and entities are looking to secure some of these licenses here in Fall River. Correct,
absolutely. And we should note, the mayor told us for a previous story, and I believe would stand by these comments, that he denies ever having done anything criminal. He's called these accusations nonsense, or at least the likelihood of additional federal charges coming. He says that's nonsense, and that he continues to be laser focused on his job. So you ask the mayor these days for his response to some of these problems out there. He's going to talk about the work he wants to do for the city and staying focused on the tasks on his desk.
Yep, and let's get into that. Let's switch to economic development. As we know, the city hired an economic development director not too long ago, but it was reported this week that the state is going to be helping the city in terms of its economic development efforts, particularly in the downtown area.
That's correct. It wasn't that long ago that it made big news here in the city because we hadn't had one for a while. We hired an economic development director in Maria Marasco. This news this week is a little bit different and sort of led by the state. We have an economic development coordinator who I understand is already rolling up his sleeves, specifically tasked with figuring out how to revitalize the downtown. His name is Jim McKeague, and he did some similar work in New Bedford, not that far away, as part of the Mass Development Transformative Development Initiative, which is a state-sponsored program that looks to spark economic development in specifically targeted geographic areas. So downtown in this case, and a section of downtown bordered by South Main Street and I believe Pecosset to the north, Morgan to the south, 2nd Street to the east, and Milliken Boulevard to the west. And he's going to be working in the district on a daily basis. And what does that mean exactly? Well, time will tell. But, I think residents would certainly like to have some input. If the discussion on our Facebook page yesterday was any indication, we asked people, what would you like to see in a revitalized downtown? And we had comments ranging from more parking, which we know is an issue, to, revitalizing the Capitol Theater, to restaurants, to entertainment. People have ideas, but it's just a matter of focusing them and seeing what's going to work best and most realistically.
Yeah, how is this going to dovetail into what the city has planned in terms of its economic development director? I mean, I'm sure they're talking to one another.
Yeah, we're looking into that for sure. We don't yet know really what the relationship will be between our city economic development director and this state coordinator, I guess we're calling it at the moment. But we imagine for sure, I mean, there's overlap there. If you're an economic development director for the city of Fall River, then a big focus is probably going to be the downtown.
Right.
So I think discussions will definitely happen, but we don't have any confirmation on the specifics of that relationship at this point.
All right. And speaking of economic development, South Coast Rail, now that it looks like it's going to be more of a reality, is going to play a big role in economic development here in Fall River. The city has received some plans from the state on how a potential train station will look in Fall River as that process moves forward.
Yeah, Peter Jasinski, the reporter on this story, and I were talking this morning about, you can't report enough about the South Coast Rail project because it still seems so unbelievable in the eyes of people who have been following this since the early 90s. You might remember earlier this month there was a groundbreaking for South Coast Rail up in Freetown, and now at the end of this month we have site plans in the works for the proposed rail station that would be right here in Fall River, along with a rail yard off Duval Street. City Planner Bill Roth is reviewing the plans at the moment. He says this signifies a significant stage for the rail extension that has been promised to this region for so long. Roth told us that the state's put a lot of time, effort, and resources into the plans, and that this is not, to use his words, a pie-in-the-sky sketch on the back of a napkin. These are detailed plans that can be turned into construction documents. And so the hope, of course, is over the next few years to see the rail take shape, and I believe by the early 2020s to have a working extension that can get people up to Boston.
That's all great news for South Coast Rail. All right, Phil, what's coming up over the next few days?
Well, we're digging into more election stuff for sure, and we've got to always love the positive news. So we have a great interview coming up with a Durfee High School student who is the first to score first place at the Skills USA competition, and not under the easiest of circumstances either. She started the year homeless pretty much after the Four Winds fire that you might remember. But this is a classic story of somebody not letting obstacles get in their way and making good things happen. So we'll have that for you this weekend.
All right, sounds great, Phil. We'll talk next week. Have a good weekend.
You too, Keith. Thank you.
We'll have more FRC Media News after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Lifeguard, South Winds Apartments, located at 24 Rolling Green Drive, is in need of a full-time lifeguard, responsible for monitoring the outdoor swimming pool at the apartment complex for clients, investors, employees, and residents. Job number 123-84959. Kitchen staff, Boneheads Live, located at 36 Water Street, is looking for full and part-time kitchen staff to prep, shake, operate fryers, grill, and cook food in the kitchen. Job number 123-84650. Administrative Support Assistant, Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, located at 251 Stonehaven Road, has an immediate need for a full-time administrative support assistant with previous experience in basic office procedures and proficiency in Microsoft Word and Excel. Job number 123-91204. Active Day Home Care is looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions servicing the Fall River area. Field Nurse Supervisor, job number 123-89619. Home Health Aide, job number 123-89631. Dunkin' Donuts, located at 101 President Avenue, is also looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Restaurant Manager, job number 123-87441. Crew Member, job number 123-87584. For more information on these or other positions, visit masshiredjobquest.detma.org or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
We have an update now on the makeup of the Fall River election ballot. Last week, we reported that 4 candidates returned nomination papers to run for mayor. Only 3, however, will be on the ballot after newcomer Angel Patoya did not secure enough signatures to qualify. And as we reported earlier, there will not be a preliminary election for City Council or School Committee. The preliminary election will take place September 17th. A 7-member task force approved by the Fall River City Council has been meeting this year to examine the possibility of changing Fall River's government structure from a mayor-city council model to a city council-city manager model. Sponsor and city councilor Steve Camara says the change is common in Massachusetts and requires a change in the city's charter.
Well, at our last meeting, we went through half of the charter, and we made some amendments to that charter to strike words like mayor, or deputy mayor, or city manager, and putting them in their right place so that the responsibility of a city manager would now be the chief executive officer of the city. Our current charter says the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city. So we've been going through the charter page by page to make some amendments, and not a lot of them, because it's really a singular focus on whether or not we want to have a mayor and city council the way we have it now, or do we want to move toward a city manager and council, which is the other option, if you will, that we've been given the responsibility to look at. Now, just to remind folks that we're not doing this haphazardly just out of the air. The city council voted, it was an 8-to-1 vote for us to take a look at this, and we've been taking a look at it. The council then subsequently voted on a closer vote, 4-3, for us to also look at the recall provision. But the task force decided that that goes beyond what we want to deal with right now. Right now, we want to deal with whether or not we move to a city manager, professionally operated form of government, rather than what we've had for many years, which is the mayor-council form of government. I think that Fall River likes having a mayor. I mean, I grew up having a mayor. I kind of think that Fall River would feel a little uncomfortable just having 9 members of the council and a city manager and no longer having a mayor. So this charter change that's being looked at, and it's not finalized yet, but right now the idea would be to keep a mayor and a deputy mayor and to have them serve in a very important position. One of the most divisive things in my 20 years of service as a city councilor has been the election of a president of the council and a vice president of the council. And I think to somewhat that's true in the school committee as well, when they elect a vice chairman of the school committee. This proposal, as it's going forward, would still elect a mayor and a deputy mayor, but they would elect them as a team. And the people are used to voting for 2 people at a time because we elect the president and the vice president as a team. We elect the governor and the lieutenant governor as a team. So Fall River would parallel that by electing a mayor and a deputy mayor as a team. And those 2 people would serve as the chairman and vice chairman of the school committee, and they would also serve as president and vice president of the council. I think that would provide for a more cohesive form of government, because no longer would the council be divided on their first meeting by 4 people saying one person should be president and 5 people saying the other person should be president, or the same with the school committee splitting 4-3 on who should be the chairman of the vice chairman of the school committee. So this position would give more power to the people to select their leadership team in both the school committee and the city council. And it would also provide for more than a ceremonial. I've heard people saying that it would be a ribbon-cutting position. No, it would not be. The mayor and the deputy mayor would be doing a lot of that sort of thing that we come to expect of a mayor. But they would also be chairman of the board, if you will, of the corporation, both the city corporation and the school committee corporation.
Now, even though there's no deadline for the task force to complete its work, if the council, mayor, and state legislature all approve, the matter could be before voters as soon as this fall.
The ideal, from my perspective, is that we get this done this year, and that we hopefully will get the council, the mayor, state legislature to agree to put it on the November ballot and let the voters vote in November, along with electing the mayor. Currently, the opposition is being formed, and we will decide that in the preliminary election. And then the members of the school committee and the council all being elected in November. And then there would be a question on the ballot. Do the people of Fall River want to move toward the establishment of a city manager form of government? If they voted yes on making this change, it would not go into effect until 2022. So that the new administration and new government that would be elected this year would be responsible over the next 2 years to transition into this newer form of professional management.
In all likelihood, if approved, the charter changes will likely be before voters at the 2021 election. Councilor Camara is also the lead on plans by the city to eliminate the use of single-use plastic bags. Bags that are, of course, popular in supermarkets and other stores. Councilor Camara feels it's time for the city to take a stand in doing its part in ridding the earth of this environmental hazard.
Plastic bags are such a small part of the bigger problem, but it's one step that I think we can take as a community. So fortunately, the Health and Environmental Affairs Committee, where this was assigned initially, has taken a look at it from a health and environmental point of view. But now we feel that because the state is not acting on a statewide ban, which I think is a better way to go, the state should be adopting a statewide ban. But since the state is not moving toward that, and we don't think they're going to move toward that in this term, that we think it's time to join those other 221 communities. So the Health and Environmental Affairs Committee unanimously adopted a resolution that will be considered at the August 12th meeting that asks now the Ordinance Committee to initiate and establish an ordinance that would ban single-use plastic bags. In most communities that I've looked at, it's a 60-day to 90-day implementation process, because you have to inform all of those that are distributing plastic bags that they need to transition out of plastic bags into other uses. The ideal thing is that people come to the responsible position of bringing reusable bags, and everybody now has at least a few reusable bags they get from one place or another. So, I know I bring my reusable bags not only to the grocery market when I go grocery shopping, but when I go to the pharmaceutical place that I go to, I always bring my reusable bags. That's what we need to do. We need to start reusing, reducing, and in some ways not only reducing and reusing, and recycling, but just getting into a more responsible citizen responsibility to make the earth a cleaner and safer place.
We'll have more FRC Media News after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Rubius Hagrid. Rubius is a 3-year-old Pomeranian mix. This little ham loves other dogs and would do best in a home with them, as his true personality does come out while he's around other dogs. We are pretty sure he likes dogs his size, as dogs bigger than him do tend to give him a little bit of a scare. He enjoys playing with his toys. Squeaky toys are his favorite. He's very calm for the most part. I've yet to hear him bark. Come on down and meet Rubius. I'm sure he would love to come home with you.
Today we have Laszlo. Laszlo here, he's a 3-year-old short hair, as you can see, black and white. He's a very nice boy. He's pretty laid back right now. He's kind of patrolling around the room, but usually he's at rest. He likes his naps. Like I said, very, very chill. He does seek out attention sometimes. He'll come over and he'll give you a very gentle head bump, that sort of thing. But for the most part, we'll approach him and we'll give him a nice little head scratch, that kind of stuff. And he's content to just lay there, and as soon as you leave, he'll just go back to sleep. So like I said, very, very laid back. So if you'd like to meet Laszlo, come on down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
The Fall River Public Library is continuing its tradition of hosting the annual Teddy Bear Picnic.
This coming Tuesday, July 30th at 11 o'clock, we want to invite everyone to the Fall River Public Library's front lawn for our 27th annual Teddy Bear Picnic. If you love teddy bears, this will be the place to be. We have teddy bear stories, teddy bear crafts. We have the teddy bear doctors that will be here, and the teddy bear beauty contest. So again, it is this coming Tuesday, July 30th at 11 o'clock. Right here at the Fall River Public Library. In case of rain, the event will be held on August 2nd, Friday, August 2nd at 11 o'clock, also right here on the library's front lawn. We hope to see you and your teddy bears right here.
And that's it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and check out all our news online at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday.